Testing, 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. There's a quorum of the Planning Committee in the room, so I'll ask the committee to come to order, and I'll welcome everyone to the 72nd meeting of the Planning Committee for this term of council. It is April the 8th, and we have some items on our agenda. Usually I would make a statement, but fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your position, we have no zoning or OP items that require a statement. There is no correspondence for today's meeting, and as of now, there are no requests to speak to the committee. Obviously, certainty is doing its job, so we don't. Everyone understands and appreciates the predictability of our new OP and zoning, so they don't have to come here anymore. Yes, that's a flight of fancy, so I'll just, I hope you'll just indulge me. Yes, you know, I was visiting the home of Coke, and I was looking for Rob Ford, but someone told me it was the wrong Coke. I was looking for the one you drink, you know, so there you go. He's going to be the butt of jokes for, like, exactly, so, you know, we might as well get used to it. Anyway, yes, and he may very well get another 4 years out of it, unfortunately. Okay, members of our committee, I've not received any regrets. Are there any declarations of interest? Okay. Confirmation of minutes. Minutes 71, Tuesday the 25th of March. All those carried. Okay. We have a consent agenda that we'll go through. We're going to hold item number 3 because there is a presentation. But item number 1 is the front-ending agreement for Mattamy Fairwinds North Phase 3 Park, Mattamy West Tartan Pool Creek Village Park, and Minto Arcadia Stage 2 Park. I have no one registered to speak. Is there anyone in the audience who is registered to speak to the committee with respect to this item? Or who would like to speak to the committee with respect to this item? Nope. Members of the committee, is this item carried? Carried. Okay. Item number 2, the 2013 annual report pursuant to the Building Code Act. I have no one registered to speak to the committee with respect to this item. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to the committee with respect to the 2013 annual Building Code Act report? No. Are there no questions? Are we getting 6 stories sometime soon in wood frame? No? Yes? Okay. Forget it. It was a rhetorical question. Is the item carried? Carried. Okay. Item number 3 we're going to hold, which is the Planning and Growth Management Term of Council Work Plan 2014 and the 2013 Delegated Authority Report. So, Mr. Moser, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, committee. I'm pleased to be here today to speak to committee about the department's 2013 accomplishments and the work plan for this year. Committee members remember back in 2011 we had met as a group to talk about the strategize and set some of our priorities for this term of council. So this update is my 3rd and final update of the term of council work program that had been agreed to by committee. You'll find a detailed listing of the project and their status in the committee report in front of you, but today I'm just going to provide some highlights on the major initiatives that we collectively undertook. First, I'd like to restate the 4 priorities that committee had set. First is to advance the transportation agenda to connect the transportation system to neighborhoods. Through this, you directed us to undertake planning studies that would build off of the Confederation Line investment and also integrate OC Transpo operations into our new communities. Your second priority is service excellence, or in other words, undertaking initiatives that will improve the department's relationship with both the community and the development industry. The third area of focus is bringing certainty to the design priority areas. These are the areas where we see the bulk of the new growth taking place. This priority has several component initiatives that have the goal of providing the development industry and the community clarity on what, where, and how development should take place in Ottawa. Finally, committee directed that we focus on how to build, within our policies and programs, a greater eye toward long-term resiliency and environmental impact on our decision-making. Talk a little bit about how we engaged. The department believes that public engagement is crucial to city building. While the decision and recommendations that staff take from time to time are not always popular, they are informed decisions. We do recognize, however, there is room for improvement, and we're working on new ways to collaborate and to engage, which I'll speak about a little bit later. But for some metrics on how we engaged in 2013, we held 113 consultation meetings on approximately 70 development applications or policy proposals. Our popular planning primer courses that we held through the year, we had approximately 450 participants in 2013. We have approximately 10,500 electronic newsletter subscribers to our 3 largest electronic newsletters that provide detailed information on planning and cycling initiatives. And finally, last year we engaged approximately 11,000 Ottawa residents through the review of the city's 5 master plans under the Building a Livable Ottawa initiative. This was the largest planning public engagement exercise since amalgamation. I'm going to speak about what we did together with the community, with the development industry, with members of council, and in terms of what we did accomplish together. Here are some of the highlights. As I just mentioned, the council approved unanimously in November our 5 master plans. The first time there was unanimous approval of all these plans since this city was created. This could not have been accomplished without the leadership of the councillor sponsors and 2 panels we had with the industry and with the community. We finished 3 transit-oriented development plans, which complete 6 plans along the Confederation line. We now have a vision for the type of growth we are looking for at those nodes, and we have created the zoning framework that only requires the developer to come in, get site plan, and a building permit. We also completed 4 community plans, one for Bayview Station, to provide a vision for this important Confederation line station, one to guide the evolution of Centretown, one for Vanier that completes a planning summit promise, and one that provides a blueprint for suburban development in the East Urban community. During 2013, we reviewed 641 development applications and reviewed 992 committee of adjustment applications. Both of these are increases over our 2012 levels of activity. Our building code inspectors undertook an incredible almost 94,000 inspections, ensuring the safety of a $2.4 billion worth of new construction in the city, as an indication of our economic health. The Urban Design Review Panel reviewed 68 applications, providing a respected opinion on several prominent tall buildings and commercial development in both the urban and suburban areas. Committee and Council provided approval for 25 heritage applications, both through the designation of new properties and the altering of existing ones. Cycling, although most of the cycling and roads matters go to Transportation Committee, certainly this committee has been involved with how we evolve city building. Just wanted to mention that we did last year, we constructed 12.5 kilometers of new cycling facilities, including the first phase of the O-Train pathway, the Beaverbrook pathway, and a Sherrod route along Meadowlands Drive. We also constructed 20 new parks, Again, we're responsible for, this committee is responsible for all of the new construction of parks. We created 20 of them, including the Fraser Fields Parkette in Barrhaven, Christina Kiss Park in Canada South, and the Blackstone Neighborhood Park in Stittsville. As part of this roundup, I guess, of our activity, I asked our graphic staff to plot on a map a pin for all the zoning, site plan, subdivision, and official plan amendments. And you can see from the map there's a concentrated amount of activity in the core, and to the west of the core in the Preston and West Wellington areas. But we're seeing a healthy amount of activity in the west, south, and east in terms of what's happening in our suburban areas. And just looking at it, there's some interesting spurs of activity around the Bank Street South Corridor, around the Building Bridge, along Hunt Club Road, and a growing amount of activity outside the downtown, but inside the Greenbelt in our older suburban communities, which I guess really are starting to experience some infill development. So it's a little hard to see, but it does give you a pretty good view of what activities are taking place in the city. We did a lot of work last year, and to do that, we need the staff to be able to do that, to accomplish committees' ends and our own departmental ends. So I want to talk a little bit about staff development. They're a key to how we move forward. And Council has, over the last years, provided capacity building funding for staff, and just allows us to strengthen our knowledge and skill set in several areas. Over 90 of our development review staff, the planners, engineers, have undertaken customized training at our learning center on how to communicate more effectively and to our clients, to the public, and when delivering presentations. With funding provided by Council and support of this committee, we were able to hire 4 junior engineers. Really, these new resources helped us to be able to speed up our engineering review and approvals, particularly in the suburban areas, and they're also helping us to build our in-house expertise in this area. Fifteen staff have now undertaken specialized urban design training, which, when coupled with our urban design review panel, will contribute, I believe, towards the designing buildings, better buildings throughout the city. And finally, with Council support, 5 more development review staff have received their LEED designation, boosting our total complement now to 17 staff members who are aware of how LEED works and how we can use his expertise within our Green Express lane, which was created this term by the mayor and the chair, to ensure that innovative development coming in, we're able to deal with them on an equal footing and being able to steer their reviews through the process as efficiently as possible. So that was last year in terms of looking forward to this year, although we're sort of a quarter of a way through it. As I mentioned earlier, the work that we're undertaking in 2014 is shown in our accompanying report. Today I just really wanted to go through a few of the highlights of that. The most significant priority this year is going to be completion of 32 zoning bylaw projects that implement Council's new official plan into on-the-ground zoning in matters of land use and building height. This initiative will continue our goals of providing certainty. We'll be bringing forward a series of reports before September and then a report later in the year. Staff are working right now on the development of a new development charge bylaw in cooperation with the sponsors group, and there are a number of the sponsors on this committee. This renewal of this bylaw implements the policies, project prioritization, and affordability framework of the recently approved master plans, and that report will be in front of committee on May the 13th. We're also, as a priority, working on or bringing forward to committee 9 community design plans this year. With the approval of the Scott Street Community Design Plan and the Gladstone Station and the Preston Carling plans, we will have completed design plans for the whole Confederation Line corridor. We'll be updating the Uptown Rideau Center Community Design Plan, undertaking community design plans in our suburban communities in North Canada, in the Maire Bleu area, and in the Maire Bleu area. We're bringing forward in collaboration with the federal government the new plan for the Rockcliffe Air Base, and finally we're bringing forward a new vision for Stittsville Main Street. As we saw at our last committee meeting, infill development is a contentious and important topic in Ottawa, and the debate certainly continues. As directed by committee, we'll be continue to review and with stakeholders the conversion report and the infill one, and we're bringing them to council in April and May. We'll also be bringing forward later this year further infill guidelines on building height, mass, and setbacks as part of the Infill 2 initiative, which takes the work we've been done on Infill 1 and move it further out into outside of the core area. We're also working on, with the leadership of the suburban councillors, working on improving our suburban subdivision design standards for everything from street trees to building setbacks and to parking. Talked a little bit earlier about our commitment to public engagement. Council last year did improve a new set of public engagement guidelines. The department has, undertaken a number of initiatives that are aimed at improving our dialogue and availability of information related to development applications and consultations on planning policies and plans, and we'll be advising committee of that later this year in terms of what we've undertaken, that has a public facing, but also what we've undertaken internally to be able to move forward with our engagement skills. But also, we do, as committee knows, we do a lot of review of applications from the very beginning to the issuance of a building permit. And this year, like all other years, our development review services and building code services staff will be involved in a series of city building projects in 2014, from the expansion of the Rideau Centre and Bayshore shopping centres to the final inspections of the Lansdowne Park redevelopment, to the redevelopment of the Chaudière Islands, and to several high-profile tall buildings within the city. Talked a little bit earlier about the urban design panel. Just one of our priorities, and which we've already implemented, is to improve the urban design review panel. We have made changes that have increased its transparency by making all meetings open to the public, and have made process changes to have the panel meetings more efficient and productive for both the panel and for the applicants that come before the panel. And certainly we've seen some improvement in that in terms of being able to spend a little more time on projects and have a more fulsome discussion. Talked a little bit earlier about staff. Just wanted to, as every organization is doing these days, as the organizations do age, we're undertaking a departmental-wide exercise this year to ensure that we have a succession plan in place for all key departmental positions, and a talent management strategy to ensure that our staff are receiving the skills and training development that are required for success and for the long-term success of the department and of the organization itself. And finally, one thing that we've been working on for a year or more, and we will continue to work on, is really the implementation of EPEL, which is an online system for building permit and planning development applications that are going to provide a more efficient and effective service to our clients. We're expecting to complete the rollout of this new system in 2016. Again, it's something that we've been waiting for, and this committee has certainly been supportive of providing the funding that we need to carry that on. So, Chair, this concludes the presentation. Certainly have the management team is with me, and we'd be pleased to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you very much.
Lewis is first off the mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions on the work plan as it regards sustainable planning, and I'm looking at the Eastern Subwatershed Study, and when I look at our website, and I'm trying to figure out where this is at, and I'm assuming this is the one that's holding up some of the infrastructure, such as the park and ride off of Navan Road. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure on the detail. I don't know if Ms. Stedden can help us with that. She's been involved with that.
Mr. Chairman, the Eastern Subwatershed Study is underway. There's going to be a report coming to the Environment Committee this month, the end of this month, with a status update on that particular study. We'll be bringing forward in the spring 3 scenarios for consultation on the Eastern Subwatershed Study, and then a final report at the end of this year.
But it says completed in Q2, so I guess what I'm getting at is I think there's some initiatives. For instance, 5 years ago, approximately, we approved money for a park and ride, which is now sort of in limbo, pending the outcome of some of the studies, and this is one of them, I believe. I want to sort of be able to understand when I can see work commence on the park and ride.
So I guess the question is the study holding up the construction of the park and ride, and if so, why?
And when will it start?
Mr. Chair, we'll get back. We'll have to get back to you on the details if we could take it offline with the councillor.
Right. The other one is on the hydrogeological terrain analysis guidelines. I'm a little puzzled because I believe when we do site plans, we're already doing this kind of work, so we must have guidelines that exist already. Is this something new we're doing, or?
Mr. Chair, you're correct. We do have guidelines now. We're trying to modernize this. We've been working on this for a number of years. It relates more into the rural area in terms of how we deal with water in those situations. So we're looking to, as we did, I think a couple of years ago, we did slope analysis guidelines. This is just us modernizing this, and I think once and for all to be able to get a citywide guideline that we can use collectively.
But I'm assuming that the work that we've done so far, I mean, when I see site plans, they have reports that come forward. Somebody's hired to do that already, so are they doing them just ad hoc without guidelines, or?
Well, they're following the provincial guidelines. I mean, that tends to be the key to it all. But and I had worked on this, and that was probably 4 years ago, trying to get, the industry to agree on to the criteria we're going to follow, the details that we need, how we do the testing, and again, try to arrive at a uniform. So it's been something that, yes, we follow the provincial standard, yes, we follow industry standards, but we're trying to develop, with the practitioners, a made in Ottawa guideline.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I look forward to an update on the Eastern Subwatershed Study and how it affects some of the works out there.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. First of all, I just want to say congratulations to the Planning Department. There's a heck of a lot of work that's been done, and especially affecting Kitchissippi Ward. There's 4 CDPs for Kitchissippi mentioned in the presentation, and we've also had the infill guidelines, the lane policy. There's been a lot of things happening that have really been a benefit for the urban core. So I want to thank you for that and all the other work as well. I know that one of my questions has to do with public engagement and the consultation, and it's an impressive number that was up on the in the presentation today. And I know in the past we've gone through a number of different types of consultation to try and engage more people, because, you know, it isn't everybody that comes out to the planning primers, it isn't everybody that comes out to public open houses. And during the last 3 years, we've had some videos, we've had on-site meetings prior to the public open houses, and I'm just wondering sort of what is the plan going forward. I know there was some consultation studies done. Is that incorporating what Aaron Burry's team did, or is that something separate that planning was doing?
Mr. Chair, we were involved with that, with Mr. Burry's group. They did that participation. We were in it. They are now rolling out a number of, if you will, tools to help us to be able to do that, giving us a broader range of ways of engaging the public. So we're embracing that in terms of how we're going to do that ourselves, and that'll be part of some of the changes we've made. You're correct. Last year we did all kinds of things we've never done before, and some of them were successful, and some of them we're learning from. So we'll build on that. We'll build on the work that Mr. Burry's team had done and what council's adopted. And there'll be I think, continue to have different ways of consulting so that we, no disrespect, don't just get the same 5 people coming out to every meeting, but broaden it and be more inclusive.
Yeah, and I note that with doing weekend, day-long consultations that we did on the Preston Carling CDP, for example. A lot of people were able just to wander in. It was in a coffee shop. It was great. But I really liked the video one. I don't know how successful it was, but it did allow everybody that just wants to sit at home a chance to look at what was happening at their own speed whenever they wanted. So I think it's interesting to see some of the different things. I look forward to what happens going forward. My other question has to do with the 32 bylaw review projects that are sort of, I guess, underway now this year and going forward. And I'm just wondering about the scope of those review projects. Are those sites, or are those sort of areas of zoning?
Mr. Chair, I'll say a few comments, and then Ms. Sneddon can fill in the details. I think it was, time flies, but I think in the last 10 days, I think I had sent an email out to all of council sort of talking about what we're doing to implement the official plan. I think in terms of the zoning studies, say on the main streets, we're, I think, a group of 3 areas that we're going out to and bringing a report back, some before the end of June, some in late fall. And we are, we're some ways relying on all of the work we did in the official plan as part of the consultation, and we'll be, going in on a limited basis, doing engagement on a, street by street. We'll certainly, give people notice of what's happening, but, it won't be as an intensive process as we, say, do with a community design plan or other kinds of new policy. So I'll ask Ms. Stem if she wants to add to that.
You need to add a little more perspective. And I understand where Councillor Hobbs is coming from, but for example, in my ward, the official plan designates Walkley Road between as a new arterial main street. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be implementing that designation and putting the appropriate zoning on it. But you're not going next door into the single-family home residential community and changing any of that zoning, which is clearly not affected by the official plan.
Sure, that's correct. We're just, when we do, parts of Walkley or other streets that we're doing, that's all we're doing. We're just going in there and following the official plan in terms of if it speaks to a height of 6 stories or 8 stories or 9 stories, that's what we're going in to implement. We're not going to be, as the chair said, going farther afield to, set the context. I mean, these are already, aside from maybe 3 or 4, these are already designated as main streets.
I guess my concern is more related to what happens in the interim before these reviews occur. Are there loopholes that people can take advantage of for spot zoning still? Like how loose is the official plan before those reviews are done?
Well, I think in terms of if someone came in with a spot zoning and wanted to zone it to the height that's in the official plan, we would support that in terms of saying, yes, that we want. If someone would come in and say, we want to, notwithstanding what the OP says, we want 10 stories, 12 stories, then we would be using the official plan policy to say, no, we're not on for that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Hubley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question for you, Mr. Moser, is to do with the site plan control applications, processing timelines. If I'm reading this correctly, we've dropped from a 34% in 2011 to a 19% on target. I just wonder if you want to comment to that.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yes, I believe you. If you're reading the numbers, I can't find them in front of me. But yes, we struggle with site plans, and I think we've talked about this before, and we are undertaking an internal review of a site plan process to see why we consistently have not been meeting our timelines. That's underway. Certainly we'll be coming forward to committee this year, just don't know the exact timing. But a lot of it just relates to, us, site plans, depending what it is, they tend to create us having to spend time assuring people that, this use is permitted, we're just doing a site plan, so sometimes we get into zoning issues with a site plan, we get into some technical issues depending where it is that involves being able to resolve these issues. We sometimes, at the end of the process, have some difficulty in having concurrence received from the applicant and from the ward councillor. That all takes time. So we're going through that, seeing where the sticking points are, and see if we can do that. And I guess we set those timelines in 2001, and we're just having a hard look at, did we have realistic estimates from the very beginning?
Yeah, because I see the numbers only improve to the 50% mark if there's no public consultation. Those you would expect would be easy to make on time. So you're saying by the end of the year, it could take the whole of 2014 to come back with a report on how we can better serve our clients with this?
Mr. Mizzi is out talking to community groups about some changes to the site plan control bylaw that will, I hesitate to call them changes because I see Joanne Chino desperately writing them down. She's going to ask a question, I'm sure. But in the process to determine what the scope actually needs to be, and maybe some of our processes aren't, as Mr. Moser says, really realistic. Some of these things require more resolution than we thought that they did. So, how can we provide minor tweaks that would make the process smoother for all parties? So, and you were out with at the FCA when, Mr. Mizzi?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to specifically answer Councillor Hubley's question, our business services branch actually has undertaken an internal review of site plan control applications, specifically focusing on delegated manager approval without public consultation. And they have provided me with some interim findings. Not unexpectedly, the target of 74 days was set 12 or 14 years ago. And in that time frame, the complexity of planning has changed, and some of the interim findings are insufficient time for issue resolution, changes in workload, organizing public consultation, in other words, calendar conflicts that occur, misuse of on-hold procedures. The input that we sometimes get from the Urban Design Review Panel can add time, and generally, though, it falls under the category of increased complexity. So our next step is to take the interim findings and discuss or provide some recommendations on how we go forward to either amend that target date or improve our processes to increase the percentage figure.
My concern, Mr. Mitzi, through the chair, is that a year, we're at 19%. It looks like we're on a good trajectory to be able to reach zero if we keep going. So I'd like to see something, maybe some sort of an interim report come back to committee. I would like to see it by July before we're done for the session to get a sense of what we can do to improve this, because, you know, to me, 19% is nothing to be beating the drums about.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Hubley, providing you a report by July is no problem. Actually, we have, as I said, all the findings done. I don't think in the future you should expect that the 19% will substantially increase unless we change the parameters of what counts in terms of meeting those timeline targets. The environment for planning review under site plan has changed dramatically over the decade, and we will have to look at possibly even changing the target figure to be more realistic with today's planning environment.
Okay. Then perhaps we can talk through the chair later about ways to do that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Is the item then, is there any discussion on the item? Is it received? Now, just before we get out of this, Mr. Moser, would you, although this is for our information, it's an update and it shows, I think we should be forwarding this to Council for its information and for its opportunity to weigh in, should it choose. So I would suggest, if there's no objection, Mr. Moser.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I have no objections.
That the Planning Committee forward this to Council, so that there's an opportunity, should other members want to weigh in, to do that. So I'll take a motion from Councillor Hobbs to forward this to the the appropriate Council agenda. Okay. So on the item, then, it's received and the forwarding is carried. Carried. Okay. Good. That concludes all of our items for today's agenda. There are no in-camera items. Are there any notices of motion? Are there any inquiries? Is there any other business? No? Okay, thank you very much. We will meet on Tuesday, April 22nd. We are adjourned.